everyone. Liz Holterhouse from OBX for Sale, powered by Keller Williams Realty, coming to you today to talk and continue talking about buyer agency in this buyer agency series that we're doing. So let's kind of recap. We talked about some of the National Association of Realtor changes that came out of the lawsuit. And then last week we talked about why it's important to hire a buyer agent sooner rather than later. And we're going to get into the reasons of why that's important now and then going forward throughout your process. So many people vacation on the Outer Banks every single year and they dream about owning a home here. And at some point in time, most of them will start to try to make that a reality, either through online searching for education and homes and things like that, or reaching out to a realtor. And I've got many people in my database that have started and stopped the process of buying a second home here. And that's okay. Some may never buy a home, some may buy multiple homes. And that, it's okay. It's everyone's journey is individual. But it is important to me to make sure that we are prepared at OBX for Sale to give them as much education as they need or want or desire. And we do that through a number of ways. This series is one of those, trying to educate you about the changes in the industry. Once you kind of reach out to us and you get into our database, we have painstakingly built some guides. We have a full home buyer's guide that you could request at any time. We've got guides on all of our lender partners. We've got guides on all of our just vendors in general, things like that. So we're a source of information for everything and anything having to do with real estate on the Outer Banks, but also maintaining real estate after you own and things like that. So oftentimes our service will begin way before the sale. Sometimes there is never a sale, and that's okay. And then we hope to include our services long after the sale as well. And that's strictly up to you as a buyer as to whether you or not you need or desire or want services or help after the sale. But we're always here to offer whatever services and help that we can give you. So the reason I say it's better to reach out to a buyer's agent sooner rather than later is there's a lot of platforms out there. There's a lot of platforms out there that pretend to be the specialist in real estate on the Outer Banks. And some of those platforms are based on just information that's readily available online, but not always the deep dive into what you need to know in order to make a decision to buy coastal property. Some of it is based on artificial intelligence, things like that. So hiring a hyper local expert to me is very important. If I was going to another city, to Boone, North Carolina, to buy a mountain home, or to one of the Florida towns to buy a second home down there, I would want to find myself a good hyper-local expert that could guide me through all of the things that I don't even know exist. And there's things that you don't even know in every single real estate market. And purchasing in an area you don't know is complicated enough, but when you add the layers of the coastal complexities to it, having someone boots on the ground that's a hyper local, someone that lives in the area in which you want to buy, and I don't mean they have to live in Duck, but I think it's important that they live in Currituck or Dare County, somewhere in the immediate Outer Banks. There is a big trend of agents from all over the state of North Carolina think that they can represent buyers in and on the Outer Banks, and it just, to me, it makes me cringe, because I think it does a disservice to the buyer. And I would never go into the Raleigh market, for instance, and think that I could represent a buyer better than a Raleigh agent could. I just can't. That's not my market. I would just refer that client to a rockstar agent in the Raleigh area. But things are changing, and the digital world makes it a smaller world, and it makes it possible for people to sell homes from anywhere in the world. But is that really in your best interest? So what I'm saying as a buyer, as a consumer, this is one of the biggest investments you'll ever make in your life. Interview a couple of buyer agents, sit down with them. If they're not offering to do a buyer consult with you, then they're not serious about their business, in my opinion. Plain and simple. If they're not trying to get some information out of you, and when I say a buyer consult, so a buyer consult is what are you looking to buy? How big does it need to be to accommodate your needs and your immediate family? Are you going to use it for rental income? Is rental income important to you, or is it just having some rental income important just to kind of subsidize the cost? How long do you think you're going to hold it? Are you eventually going to turn it into your primary residence? All these things. Do you need a pool? How close do you want to be to the ocean? How close do you want to be to the sound? Do you want to be sound front? Do you want to be in a resort style community like Corolla Light, or do you prefer something quieter with little to no amenities? Maybe down in Frisco, that type of thing. So what vibe are you looking for? And oftentimes people will say to me, none of that matters. I just want good rental income. And that's good to know, because what you may love could be a home in Duck that's small, that accommodates just your family. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, beach box in Duck. But the income on it, because of its size, its lack of amenities, things like that, may not get you where you want to be as far as an investment goes. And that's okay. So if you really need the rental income, or as much rental income as possible, that's good to know. And then I would suggest leaving your areas open. You may prefer vacationing in Duck, but the house in Corolla may be the better investment for you. The numbers may work better, or a home in KDH, or a home in Nag's Head, that kind of thing. So it's really good to know what your top wants and needs are, so we can go out and find it. And oftentimes we'll set up automatic listing notifications for our clients that are looking. And I would suggest looking in a broader area first. Maybe if you have your criteria and you want income, and you've got a price point, a budget set, you've been pre-qualified, we're going to talk about that shortly, is to set those listing searches up more broad. And as time goes on, kind of narrow them down from there and dial in to exactly what you want. Because sometimes you don't even know what you're missing if you're wanting to look in such a small area. So sometimes leaving that search more broad is I feel it better serves the client. It gives them a better chance to become educated as to what other areas offer that kind of thing. I think it's important to hire a hyper local expert for a lot of reasons. Because they, as a realtor, we're supposed to know everything really about your neighborhood, about the zoning laws, the regulations, even things that are due to change but haven't yet changed, development that could be coming but is not quite here yet. We're supposed to stay on top of all of that information. And if you're not hyper local, I would just beg to argue that it's almost impossible, because it is a hard task anyway to live here and to have lived here 30 some years and know what every municipality in Dare County and Currituck County are doing, and the changes that are forthcoming or even being talked about. They may never come to pass, but it's important for us to know that they're out there. And it's also important for buyers and sellers to realize that your local realtors are the ones that are our boots are on the ground every single day in our communities, and we are fighting constantly for the rights of property owners behind the scenes. And many of us serve on committees and go to these town meetings and write letters to government officials, both local and on the state level, to fight things that we feel like could be harmful to the area, or to fight for people's property rights that are maybe being limited, or to fight against a big development, a big box store being built in the town of Duck, for instance, or just all the things. We just have to stay up to date on every possible thing that is coming down the pike at us. The Mid-County Bridge is one of them, and I stay on top of that, and I give out updates to my client base that is interested in that or owns property either in Currituck County on the mainland or Currituck County on the beach areas where that bridge is going to cut through at. So it's very important for your agent to have that hyper local knowledge. And I just don't think that's possible if you don't live here, if this isn't where you live and do business and shop and do all the things in your life. If you're a part-time agent here and your home is in Virginia Beach or in Northern Virginia or in Raleigh or in Charlotte, I just think that's really hard, and I think it's going to translate through service to the buyer. So all I'm saying is when you go to look for a buyer agent, hire one that suits you. Hire one that is going to work the best for you. And it's impossible to do that truly without sitting down with 1, 2, or 3 of them and going through a buyer consult and asking them how they're going to serve you. Simply, what is their plan? How are they going to help you as a buyer? You, again, are going to spend money investing in one of the biggest investments of your life. It needs to be somebody who is knowledgeable, is all I'm saying. And everyone is different, and experience matters. And knowledge, hyper-local knowledge matters. Who you do business with matters. It really does. And it's not to say that a newer agent doesn't have that experience or knowledge behind them. You could have a brand new agent that spent their first 20 years of their career, much like I did, as a paralegal in real estate and running a building firm. So there's lots of ways to have real estate knowledge in and around the real estate market without actually being in sales. So I'm not saying that a new agent can't have that type of experience or knowledge in order to help you. Understanding neighborhood trends is important. Understanding property values and how they can change from one town to the next, from one community to the next. Being able to dig down into the stats and the hyper-local stats of a community is important. Otherwise, it's impossible to advise you when a house comes on the market. Do I have to be aggressive on this? Do I have to make a full price offer? Or what can we expect? Is this going to sit on the market for a little while? Are we going to be able to get this for less than full price? If they don't know those stats, if they don't study those stats daily like I do, it's going to be very hard for an agent to advise you in the field as you go through the process of looking through homes. Also, neighborhood trends like what would be a good example of that? Like the Mid-County Bridge coming, for instance, and where that's going to be in Corolla, and just understanding how that might cause the real estate values in and around the Corolla area to rise once that bridge starts construction. Or even on the mainland area of Currituck County, how the bridge construction might affect those areas as well. And of course, that leads into the awareness of upcoming developments and things like that. One of the earlier things you should also do in the buying process is, once you're ready to start looking at property, Or even before that, you could do it with a soft pull on your credit, is to reach out to a mortgage broker, have a conversation with them. It doesn't always have to involve a hard pull on your credit, but talk to them about what you would like to do, what assets you have. They'll kind of do a buyer consult with you too, and they can typically give you a good idea as to what you would qualify for. But also, what you qualify for and what you're comfortable with can be two different things. So you want to first know and understand what you qualify for and what that equates to as a mortgage payment. And then, is at a comfortable level? Can you get the rental income you need at that level? Or do we want to start smaller? And that's okay. You need to determine your budget. But I can help, and certainly a local lender can help do that. Sometimes I say this to people and they look at me like I'm crazy, but sometimes that oceanfront home that's doing $200,000 a year in rental income is more affordable once you're in the door than a house 8-10 back with no pool with very little rental income, even though the price tag is smaller, because of the cash flow on the property. And this is why I said you've got to determine what the importance of the cash flow is with the rental income. There are many clients that don't want to rent, so they want something small that will just accommodate their immediate family. They'll rent it maybe a few weeks a year to family and friends, maybe the prime season weeks on Airbnb, but they don't want to be locked into renting it all the time. And they don't want, they just don't want that many people in their house. They don't want that much wear and tear on their homes and things like that. So knowing how you're going to use it and what's important to you as far as rental income coming in is also very, very important. We all have our favorite lenders. I would say probably the most important thing is to use a local lender. Again, it goes back to that hyper local experience and knowledge of the market. Coastal property has its complexity. Complexities in lending as well. Some areas don't readily qualify for lending, like in the four-wheel drive area. Not everyone loans in that area. So it's important to know that before you're 30 days into a contract and your lender comes back and says, oh, this is in a COBRA zone, we can't loan here. And then your whole deal falls apart, or you have to get extensions and the seller is mad because we're not going to meet the closing date, that kind of thing. These are the kind of pitfalls that could happen if you don't have local knowledge behind you, looking out for you and making sure you don't fall into those pitfalls. Understanding CAMA regulations if you're waterfront property, sound front, canal front, ocean front, wetlands, mitigation, all of those things are very complicated. They change frequently. The laws change frequently. And I may not know every single law, the most up-to-date law, but I know exactly who to call to find out for you. So if I know something is of utmost importance to you, before I let you put a contract on a property and risk losing a single dollar, if you're not able to do what you want on that property, I'm going to call and make those calls and find out and make sure that everything that you want to do is allowable on that property. And again, that's where experience and knowledge really matters, is who those people are. Not everyone can know everything, but you better know where to find the answers, is what I'm saying. So expert knowledge, education matters. You may go through a couple of our email touch plans and realize that this is just something you don't want to do. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. What makes me the most nervous and upsets me the most is when someone just says, I want to buy this house. They've never looked at anything else. They haven't really sat down and talked to a mortgage broker or a buyer's agent as to the whys and the hows and the pitfalls of owning short-term rentals, that kind of thing. The pitfalls and the issues in owning a coastal property. Maintenance is greater, it's higher. They don't have any idea what the tax rate is here. They have no idea what the insurance cost is here. And they'll just write an offer on the first house they see. That scares me to death for that person. And so my goal is, we work for the buyer. So we're going to do what the buyer tells us to do. But my goal is to always make sure the buyer is fully educated and every question that they could possibly have is answered. I feel much better about my job and the service that we provide if we're able to do that. And again, that is where experience matters and who you do business with matters. And we hope at OBX for Sale, you choose us, that you choose me. And my amazing assistant, Eileen, we're here to answer any questions. And like I said, we've got a great buyer's guide. If you would love to have a copy of that, just reach out to us and we'll get that to you. We do 3 monthly newsletters. One's more of a lifestyle newsletter every month that you can subscribe to. And we also do a legislative newsletter quarterly to tell you what's going on in and around the community. And we try to keep our owners educated, not just if you're an owner in Corolla, we try to educate you as to all the big changes in that legislative newsletter that are affecting both Dare and Currituck County, the entire Outer Banks. So I hope this helps, and reach out to us if you would like that buyer's guide. And until next time, have a great day.